When your soul just puts out that prayer to like, all right, like what I'm doing isn't working and I need help. And someone inboxes me and sends me some info of like a local retreat. I should have questioned it because why is someone advertising? Or why is someone advertising? But at the time, I'm like, oh, my prayers have been answered. I'm like, oh, it's a week and a half before my 40th birthday. Like, this is going to be perfect. This is going to be amazing. This is going to solve all my trauma. Hashtag spiritual bypassing. So I went. And so, yes, when you agree to go, the medicine starts working before you even drink. Through this experience, I've had to learn to discern what is like healthy, rational fear and kind of pushing through the discomfort versus like listening to what your body is telling you. So there were things like leading up to that, like, there was a huge snowstorm and like I almost wasn't able to make it. And even like 10 minutes before like getting to the retreat center, and it was like a horrible freaking snowstorm, I had this feeling of like, I kind of want to turn around, but like it would be like a 3-hour drive back home because of the snow, or it's like 10 minutes up the road.
Welcome to Season 4, Episode 4 of Ouroboros Story Hour, True Tales of Healing in Altered States. I'm your host and producer, Bob Cohen. I'm a dad, writer, teacher, and bluesman. When I'm not driving myself and everyone else nuts, I'm busy writing poetry, singing the blues, and working on a memoir about the blessings of clogged arteries and an unplanned financial catastrophe. Ouroboros Story Hour is an international monthly unscripted storytelling production that presents humans sharing stories about their experiences with healing and visionary plants, psychedelics, and other consciousness hacking practices. Our mission is to promote deep healing and radical acceptance of ourselves and others by sharing and witnessing people's stories. We practice unscripted long-form storytelling. This works best when you're able to set aside some space for it and for you to give your thinking mind a rest and simply just listen with an open heart. And because this is long form storytelling, we give them the space they need to discover their truths. So kick back, relax, and let the magic unfold. So I'm your host and producer, Bob Cohen, and up next is Stephanie Brown. So Stephanie is someone I've known for a while now, and she's an amazing human being. And in all the years that I've done this, she's the one who sort of really saw something about me that needed to be seen, which was my relationship to energy work. And she said, she does, that's among the things that she does. And so she said, you take care of everybody, so I want to take care of you. And I have to say that I started medicine work as a deeply committed materialist. If I couldn't experience it with my five senses and measure it, and this is the most important thing, couldn't measure it with a thing, it didn't exist. And so I went to Stephanie's office, and as it happened, she moved from a town a little far away from me to a town right near me. So we went, and she worked on me. And as she was doing what she was doing now, she never touched me, but she came over an area of my body, and something happened. I don't know what to tell you. I've never been right ever since. But something happened, and it was I have no rational explanation for what happened. I mean, maybe someday we'll have the tools to measure it, and maybe in the end it is all, maybe even the spiritual is, can be reduced to materialism. I don't know, but there was just no way that I could explain it, and that sort of like opened me up in my medicine work going forward to really being available to this other way of looking at what was going on. So we kind of like moved from 5-HT2A neuroreceptors and serotonin agonists and molecules and science to this other way of looking at it. And I've kind of like, it's caused me to sort of like really come to think of science as just another story that we tell about being a human being in this world. So with that in mind, Stephanie has been working in the health and wellness field for a variety of roles for over 20 years. She has a BA in psychology and worked in mental health before switching directions and going to massage school and studying energy healing, herbalism, and earth medicine. She currently has her own holistic healing practice and encourages clients to think outside the box when it comes to deep healing and growth. So Stephanie plans to tell a tale filled with drama, mystery, and intrigue about the last year of her life, which begins with a horrifying ayahuasca ceremony I think we both attended together, and almost getting sucked into an aya cult. This was followed by a series of events that led to her losing her shit and breaking apart completely, and ends with her finding her shit and putting herself back together again, better than ever. And I know and she knows that the shit will break again.
Thank you so much for that, like, really wonderful introduction. It always kind of catches me off guard because I'm like, oh God. So thank you. And I have to like give a preemptive apology if my cats are being little shits in the background, because I've been gone all day. So yeah, so it's been a really intense year of integration. So I guess I'll kind of start with once upon a time, I was born into a family that didn't know what the fuck to do with me. And those like that those early life wounds of you know, I'm the youngest of fifth child. I'm the youngest of five. I always referred to myself as the forgotten fifth. When it came to like my emotional and energetic and even needs for safety, like I could relate a lot to what Issa was saying about feeling safe in your body, because like, so today is actually my 41st birthday. And in my 41 years, like I don't really know how much I've actually felt safe in my body. And so early life attachment trauma, you know, being diagnosed with bipolar disorder at age like 19 or 20, like struggled with depression, anxiety, PTSD throughout adolescence and college. Kind of was always aware that I was like, not kind of always, like I was definitely always aware that I was different than most people around me. Yeah, mental illness had kind of like, I remember being 7 years old and experiencing depression. Age 11, I had suicidal ideation. Didn't know who the fuck I was, why the fuck I was here, like what is this? So, you know, had a series of experiences throughout my life where just trying to find meaning, like trying to find understanding, like why do I feel this way? Why am I different? Like why am I here? So in college, like I discovered psychedelics, but it was more like, you know, let's drop some acid and like watch the walls melt. Didn't really understand like therapeutic use for it until later. And so from ages like 19 until my 30s, I was on bipolar medication. I was on mood stabilizers. I was on antidepressants. I was on antipsychotics. I was on anxiolytics, anti-anxieties. I was on medication to help me stay awake, and I was on medication to help me sleep. Somewhere in my early 30s, I'm like, fuck this. Like, I had a psychiatrist I've been working with for 7 years. And after 7 years, she's like, you know, I'm not sure what's wrong with you. And I was like, thank you so much for your opinion. It's time to pursue alternative methods. And I decided to, like, with the help of holistic practitioners, to wean off the meds and start like living, start feeling, stop running away, and let's do this shit. I really connected to the plant world and plant medicine, and all these wonderful people that would come my way. That it was like, you know, other people that were devoted to learning, loving, growing, all that stuff, kind of exploring the unknown that in like mainstream society, like we're not supposed to talk about. That I'm like, I make it a point to talk about those things. Like somewhere like in studying energy medicine, that like my social circles kind of got back into like the plant medicine realm and psychedelics and therapeutic uses of psilocybin and microdosing. And so I'd had some like really profound mushroom experiences, some like solo, and then I have a couple friends that we journey together and do like really deep healing work and combining it with energy work, and it's just wonderful. So it was about a little over 3 years ago, the first time that grandmother ayahuasca kind of came into my realm. I was at a fire ceremony and someone had mentioned it, and I was like, tell me more about this medicine. And she had explained it. And there was a little tiny retreat center, like a secret hidden retreat center in Florida, that you need to be referred by a member of the church. There's like a process of screening. And if you're like approved or welcomed into the church, then you're given like a link to a secret website with a password. Like it's very protected, like it's very cherished, it's very honored. So I, had communication with the curanderos before going and told them like, this is my past. I have a lot of trauma that I'm working through. I also do have a previous diagnosis of bipolar disorder. Because I know that this is a concern with psychedelics. And at the time, they weren't concerned. Also, I did have a strong support network, and also like the way that this retreat center, like I think there were only 8 of us sitting with the medicine. It was a family, and they live the dieta, like they take it so seriously. And like I know I've told Bob this story, but I remember like my first time going there for like, during the intake, because I do have science background, as much as I'm like, I can be very woo woo and energy and like, just trust and believe. Like I am very scientific, and like I need to know evidence, and I need to know that also if I'm going into like the middle of nowhere, like what if I die? Like what? Like I'm taking this medicine, like that is going to make me purge and potentially shit myself. Like let's have a talk here. So I remember, in my intake, talking to the man, and I was like, is there emergency medical team? Like, what's the deal? And just the level of like trust and like, just healing that this medicine man oozed. He looks me in the eye with these like just wonderful, like brown eyes. And he's like, Stephanie, if you die here, would that be the worst thing? And like, and it's funny because I tell that story now and people are like, what the fuck? But like, it just, I felt so safe. And I also knew that there was something that I was going there to, like, I was going there for a death. It was a 3-night ceremony. When you're not in ceremony, you have your own little individual cabin. You're encouraged to really retreat in. You have like an hour integration with like 2 of the medicine people each day. Like I felt so safe to really do some like intensely deep work that like at the time I didn't even know what deep work was. But like that first night did break apart into like the nothingness of fractals. And I had the most amazing visuals and experiences, and I had this like really profound, like full body orgasmic experience. And I had this like experience of dying and being brought back up into the spaceship. And it was so funny because I definitely had this like, I don't even know what it was, like an ayahuasca, like an ayahuasca-gasm or something, but it was just like ecstatic bliss of like, oh fuck yes, if this is death, then fuck yes. I was completely like immersed in my experience. And at one point, like I took the release very literal, and I stood up and ripped off all my clothes. And and one of the medicine people was like, you have to put your clothes back on. And I was like, I was like, I need help. And they just like motioned me to my mat and covered me up with my blanket, and it was all good. And like, and so that in and of itself was so healing, because I've had a lot of body shame over the years. So it was like, all of a sudden this reality of like, oh shit, I'm actually not on a spaceship in like another planet. Like I'm in like a tent with like 9 or 10 other people. And I'm like, okay, well, this is a thing that happened. And so like each other night of those ceremonies with those individuals, like it was amazing. It was beautiful. Coming back from that was like, okay, I am starting to understand who I am, why I'm here, what my life could be like if I'm more healed from the trauma. And so like that was my first experience. And I would love to believe that all places and people that serve with that level of integrity. Fast forward 2 years to this is a year ago. Like, in New England, like it's really hard to find like a retreat center in New England, other than like pop-ups that are here and there. I about 18 months ago, my mom passed away, and my mom had been very abusive to me. Like she was like the source of shit. And so I was having a lot of trouble processing her death, her life experiences. When your soul just puts out that prayer to like, all right, like what I'm doing isn't working and I need help. And someone inboxes me and sends me some info of like a local retreat. I should have questioned it because why is someone advertising? Or why is someone advertising? But at the time, I'm like, oh, my prayers have been answered. And like, oh, it happens to be a week and a half before Bob was helping me prepare for this too. But it was like, I'm like, oh, it's a week and a half before my 40th birthday. Like, this is going to be perfect. This is going to be amazing. This is going to solve all my trauma. Hashtag spiritual bypassing. So I went. And so, yes, when you agree to go, the medicine starts working before you even drink. Through this experience, I've had to learn to discern what is like healthy, rational fear and kind of pushing through the discomfort versus like listening to what your body is telling you. So there were things like leading up to that like my kitchen was flooding. There was a huge snowstorm, and like I almost wasn't able to make it. And even like 10 minutes before like getting to the retreat center, and it was like a horrible freaking snowstorm, I had this feeling of like, I kind of want to turn around, but like it would be like a 3-hour drive back home because of the snow, or it's like 10 minutes up the road. And I had other friends that were like helping me prepare for the ceremony that like, they were like, I have a really weird feeling. And I was like, no, like I'm gonna be fine. Like this is the medicine working. Just overly optimistic. Now I realize like, as much as I'm like, oh, I'm totally healed from bipolar disorder. No, like I still have delusions. And sometimes I need to like pay attention to like, I need to fucking pay attention and like stop deluding myself. So there were a lot of warning signs. I have attended many ceremonies, not just ayahuasca ceremonies, like, I mean, fire ceremonies, healing rituals. Like I'm not new to healing work. So like, upon arrival, like I was a little overwhelmed, and it was one of the things that I had talked to the person who was arranging it, that I'm like, okay, I am different than a lot of other people. I'm not like, oh, I'm better than everyone. No, I have disabilities and I have certain things that like I need to voice and I need to advocate for myself. I'm very sensitive, energetically, like because I also do healing work, like I am concerned about just like the energetic maintenance of the space, and tell me about the people that are facilitating. So I thought I was asking all the right questions. And even though upon having this conversation like a week before ceremony, like there was a feeling in the pit of my stomach that's kind of like, this dude seems like a fucking salesman and a bullshit artist. I wanted so badly for this medicine to heal my trauma. I wanted so badly to have this ceremony, this fucking weekend ceremony that's going to heal 40 years of shit. Like, I mean, now because I've done so much integration work, I'm like, but I was aware that I was looking for the quick fix. I was looking for the magical ceremony. So, I get to the place, and I'm watching everyone. I'm watching everybody, who's going to be drinking the medicine. I'm scanning the facilitators, and I'm watching the medicine woman. And there were things on my radar, but I'm like, I had that first experience 3 years ago where everything was perfect and I was completely safe. So I had to ask myself, like, is this just my trauma? Or like, is this my body being like, run, bitch, run? First night, I know I'm very sensitive to medicines. Again, like I understand my brain chemistry. Like I'm not neurotypical. Like, so, I told them this, that I'm like, I want a smaller dose. Like, whatever you're giving everyone else, give me like half. I'm like, give me a third of what you're giving everybody else. First night. And also so I could do my work, but also stay conscious of like something felt off, like something didn't feel as energetically safe. Things weren't right. So like that first night, it was like a lot of like purging. And I really felt like I was kind of like kept clearing and almost kind of like trying to fortify my space from the chaos going on around me. And like a couple of like there was one facilitator who was helping the night that I was in ceremony that I was like, all right, I trust this dude. Like I feel very safe with him. I'm not so sure about the medicine woman. Like there's something that I'm like, I want to trust, but also like, is this safe? Is this just my trauma coming up? Or is this person safe? Wanting so badly to believe what these people are telling me. And like, so that night like was all right. The next morning, like I had gotten really close with like a couple of the other people that were in ceremony. And so one of them was kind of like, we were talking before the second night, and I was like, I feel this fear. And like at the time, I'm like, oh, it's fear of claiming my birthright. And really, it was my body saying, like, something's not right here. Like something's just not right. Like you are not safe. Second night, and I had even had a long conversation with the medicine woman that day. And I was like, I'm sensitive and like I'm concerned. And like many of the people assisting in that ceremony, like their philosophy is like, go big or go home. Oh, it's plant medicine. It can't hurt you. And like I'm still processing a lot of that shit where a lot of people do that. And it's like there's a reason why other retreat centers, like for example, I know Soul Quest, if you come in with a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, they don't serve you. So it's like I felt like I was covering all my bases. And so like that second night, I had a full dose and I went into it like, yeah, I'm a motherfucking warrior. Like I'm a warrior goddess. I can do this shit. Medicine hit me real quick. And at first it was like beautiful and fractally. And I was like taken to this wonderful, divine, cosmic temple. And like, I remember getting up and going into the bathroom and like, something wasn't right. Like, and I'm like, is this just like that whole, like, not being safe in my body thing coming up to be released? But it was like, I was in excruciating pain. Like, felt like something in me clawing to get out or something out of me clawing to get in. I was in the bathroom and I'm like, oh God, all right, childhood trauma. I need to ask for help in the bathroom, naked on the toilet. Like, so I cracked the door open and I'm like, I don't know what I need, but I know I need someone in here. Like my body, I didn't know what was happening. Didn't like, I knew I needed to purge, but I couldn't purge. And the woman that did help me like is very lovely. And like, she and I have since gotten in touch and I've kind of told her everything that's happened this year of integration. So she was really wonderful. And at the time, like, I thought that all the people that were assisting in ceremony, including the medicine person, like I had given them a lot more power than they deserved. I had given them like this elevated status of like, oh, they must know everything because they're serving ayahuasca. Uh, fuck. So like I knew in my body, like, because I've done a lot of somatic work. I'm not a noob. I've done a lot of somatic work with others and for others, and like something wasn't right. And I kept being told, this is part of the process. This is your experience. And like, I was sobbing, I was screaming. I kept having these like, at the time I didn't understand it. And since then, because I've had to work with a ton of practitioners, therapists, counselors, coaches, integration specialists, shamans, all of it. So at the time I didn't know what was happening. It felt like lightning bolts in my brain. like my entire body tensing up, like knowing like I've been working with combo a lot for like a couple years prior to that. So I understand, this too shall pass, understand, like breathe through it. Like I've done just a lot of training in life, like how to find your focus when you're going through shit. So like whatever it was that was happening to me, like I knew to hold certain body positions, like I knew to breathe, but like it was horrifying. Um, like I felt like I was being choked. I couldn't breathe. I remember being like, like I need help. I need something. I don't know what I need. I'm like, and I remember asking like, what would help? And someone being like, hape would help. And I'm like, can someone get me some hape? No, you can't have hape until the medicine woman calls it in, which isn't going to be for like another, I don't know. I don't know. I still don't know if I was in the bathroom for like 10 minutes, an hour, 8 hours, a year. Was it like an eternity? So when they're like, no, you need to wait until someone call, like until, and I'm like, this is a fucking shit show. Like, this is a fucking shit show and I'm going to die here. And I kept being told like, this is your experience, sweetie. You're just releasing, just breathe. And like, I'm, so like afterwards, like it finally passed. And it was horrifying. Like I was in so much pain, and like I already exist in like with chronic pain. I've had chronic pain in my body for like 15 years, and so when like I have more pain, and when I have more pain when I'm on in like a psychedelic experience like that, I don't like that. Like that's not part of my experience. Don't fucking tell me it's part of my experience. Like the day after, like I mean, everybody has, like emotional outbursts and things. And so I just like, I remember feeling like really raw and especially broken. And like, these people are like, oh, ah, your family and we love you. And like, we really want you to help out here. We really appreciate the experience that you have, like, your healing experience, your psychology background. Like, we want you to help out here. And I'm like, oh God, this is the family that I've always wanted. This is that like fairy tale of like, I come for an ayahuasca experience and I find the family I've always been looking for. Turns out it was more like the family that I was born into. A lot of drama, a lot of lies, a lot of bullshit. But like coming out of that experience, I wasn't aware that it had triggered like some mania stuff and some psychosis and some delusions. Like I just knew that something wasn't right. I wanted to trust these people. And like, so I was going to be like, observing and volunteering at a ceremony like a month later. Who are these people really? Are they living this life and integrating when they're not playing healer and when they're essentially not playing God? Like, are they doing the work, or are they just putting on their fancy white clothes during ceremony and like because that stuff, when you're doing healing work for others, and especially if you're like doing medicine work for others, like you need to be that hollow bone, like you need to be that empty vessel, what you bring into ceremony, people are going to feel it. When you're doing healing work for other people, people are going to pick up on that. And so it was like my first month volunteering behind the scenes, and I'm like, eh. But also I felt like I had belonged. I have always felt like shunned from like other groups and other people. And again, like I'm not a mainstreamer, I'm not neurotypical. I don't like I've always been, searching for others like me, and like wanting to find this like mystery cure for whatever it is that ails me. The following month, like I helped out again, and that was when the shit kind of hit the fan, where I'm like, you're not you're not smudging and clearing the room regularly. Like the medicine woman was about to pass out before ceremony and may have passed out during ceremony. And if she's like the gatekeeper between worlds is not on point, fuck was hurting me when I was in that bathroom screaming my head off. Like I know what it is to run a ceremony, and I know when people are legit doing their work and when others are just kind of like playing the roles. So I started asking questions of the people that ran this group. They didn't like that. Like I was accused of a lot of shit. And at the time, like I don't know, like I let this person shit on me. I let this person gaslight me to the point like where he was just gaslighting me because I was bringing up certain things that I'm like, these need to be addressed. And then like it was just a fucked up thing. And then I was like, you know what? I don't want anything to do with these people. I don't want anything. Like I'm done. Like the only way that I can heal from this really traumatic experience, like I went in wanting to work on trauma, and instead I got a whole other bucket load of other people's trauma. That is not the experience I signed on for. But no, my experience was due to other people's negligence. My experience was due to other people fucking claiming like, I've drank ayahuasca 30 sometimes and now I'm a golden god and I'm going to start an aya cult. Okay. All right. As someone that has been working very hard on like my mental state for years, I'm more aware of when I'm delusional. And I found that certain people in like that work a lot with psychedelics, it's real easy to lose touch. It's real easy to believe that, and I'm not discrediting like true experience. Absolutely not. Like I am a big proponent for plant medicine. Absolutely. When used safely, when facilitated safely. So like absolutely profound healing experiences. But uh, like the importance of integration, like the importance of like continuing to do the work, stop chasing the quick fix and stop claiming like to have power or like I'm so much better than this person because I've sat in so many ceremonies, or like I know my shit because I've drank the medicine so many times. I'm like, great, do you have therapeutic training? I think I had a psychedelic induced psychosis. And having so like living with a mood disorder, like psychedelic usage has to be different and it has to be monitored. Like it is best and it is advised to work with it with an integration coach, microdosing, know your limits, but like have people that you're working with. It's real easy to like, it's real easy to go in la la town and woo woo world. And it's real easy to like drown in it. Like I had to put the psychedelic use away for a while, and really learn what it is to ground into the present, into my body, listening to what my body tells me, thanking my body for trying to warn me about that ceremony. And so since then, I have actually gone back on mood stabilizers, to try to like not normalize, but regulate brain chemicals. But it's like, people may do psychedelics and work with psychedelics that like they actually have tendencies towards um like mood disorders where it actually may be too much and they might not even know it. So like kind of stepping more into like, assisting others with integration or like working safely with those that like do have mental illness and mental health conditions so that they can like safely work with psychedelics in a way that like it's not going to propel them into full-blown psychosis. And like, they're just like, yay, psychedelics, but also not for everybody. And this need for if people are going to serve the medicine or work with the medicine or encourage others, please be aware that like this medicine isn't for everybody. And like, yes, it can cause harm, even though it's a plant and even though it's a natural substance. Like a year plus later, and I've made amends with who I've needed to from that group, and cut out others. And also like I refuse to be silenced. So like when people ask me like what my experience was and I'm not going to share the name of it here because it's not, I don't know if it's appropriate, but like when people reach out and they're like, oh, do you know about this place? I'm like, yeah, actually this is the experience I had. You're absolutely more than like, go do you, but this is the experience I had. And when people ask me like what my take is on things, I'm going to be honest because I don't want someone to have the same fucked up experience that I had, where I'm like, I should have been taken out of the medicine. Did it cause permanent brain damage? Like, am I permanently fucked up because of it? Like, like I don't, I had this big awakening. I learned a lot more about myself and about my trauma and I've healed on a deeper way. But no, that's not the experience that that I asked for, that I needed. I needed people that were actually going to be like supportive and actually help me and actually recognize when I was in danger and not just tell me that like that's the experience I was having. So yeah, so that brings us to now, where like again, like I still really love psychedelic use for healing therapeutic benefits. But it's, a well-rounded like mind, body, spirit. And also like for people that are going to start to like dabble on their own, reach out to like a coach or someone like there, in this wonderful world that we're in, there are psychedelic integration coaches. And there are people that can assist with this work. And so it's like, if you're also someone that is on medication, if you're someone that like does have bipolar disorder and you can't do this medicine, like there's nothing wrong with you. Like, and that's okay. You're not missing out. Like, we all have a right to be here. And like, it like, cause I know that there are some people that they feel left out. Like, I mean, myself included, when I see people like, oh, I went to the ceremony. I'm like, that's awesome. I'm trying to be normal right now. Like, I'm trying to be like stable. So yeah, that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Well, Steph, so much.
So much.
so much. Because we both went to that same ceremony, and I had many of the same feelings that you did about the group and the container and all that sort of stuff. And if I wasn't as experienced as I was when that happened, that would have been like a totally fucked up shit show. But it's funny how it worked out, because in the story I told earlier today, I alluded to a point at which I had crawled out of the room because I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel safe in my body because there were literally just too many people in the room, and I didn't feel like the facilitator was, keeping a safe space. She brought me back. She was strong. She'd had 10, 12 years of training. She knew what to do and how to make it work, right? So now fast forward to this ceremony that you're talking about. So this was on the second night, and I had gotten moved. I was sort of like safely in the middle of the room, and then I had gotten moved over to where the bathroom was. And there was kind of like all this like crazy energy in it. And they like, this group had like a quiet room. And I said to myself, this is not working for me. I can't stay here. So I asked to go to the quiet room, and that saved, that saved my night. And it ended up being, it's funny, like it ended up being a deeply profound experience. But a big part of that was that I learned about myself that I actually knew how to keep myself safe in my body by getting up and getting the fuck out of there, because it was just nuts. And with that facilitator in particular, when you were talking about the hape, and I love hape. I mean, I really do. And so when the call came, I was like, yeah, hape, let's go, because it kind of like it really grounds me. I mean, it does what it's supposed to do. It like brings me back into my body. So I go up, and that the facilitator was serving themselves first. And I'm accustomed to people who all the other people I've ever worked with are come out of like actual traditions where they've been trained in South in South America and different places, and they've had like they've grew up in the life, and they've had 10, 12 years of experience. So when those people serve themselves hape to ground themselves, they're not, they know what they're doing. Like they're taking the facilitator's doses, right? Like they're not loading up like 8 pounds of it and going. And then so the facilitator started just coughing and fusing, and I'm like, you can't keep your fucking energy to yourself. I literally got up and walked away. I was like, hell no, this is not what's happening. And so it was like this whole thing of like, well, even in that profoundly altered state, it was like, yeah, I can keep myself safe. Safe. And it was fun because we drove home after that together and debriefed over it, and it was just it's an important message it's an important takeaway. Just because somebody knows how to make ayahuasca does not qualify them as a person to kind of like, this goes back to like what I talk about in the very beginning when I caution people. do your research, know who you're going, know where you're going, who you're doing it with, what their experiences are, and trust yourself because I mean, I always go into these things scared shitless, but there's like that experience you had where like you just were you decided to ignore your good sense, and so it's like learning to be able to discern between. I used to tell my kids this all the time. I go, it's great to have butterflies in your stomach because it means you really care. But when it turns into hornets, deal with it. I was especially glad we got to take that drive home together because it was sort of like, I don't know about for you, but it was a great reality check. It was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, because that was when I was like, because it was 2 months after the ceremony that I had where like something wasn't right. So that was when I was like assisting and like you
Mhm.
and I, yeah, you and my talk was like, because that was the one where like just really fucked up shit happened where I'm like,
Yes. Yeah.
I cannot ethically, as someone that is like, taken like oaths to like, like be an upstanding ethical practitioner. I'm like, I can't. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm really grateful for everybody that came tonight. Thank you so much, Stephanie. I'm glad you were able to make it, and happy birthday, by the way. And I'm
Thank
glad
you.
that you chose to spend some of your birthday at Ouroboros Story Hour. That's a great gift. I appreciate it. James, thank you so much. Isa, thank you so much. Haya, I think she finally went to bed. It's I don't know. I think that France is 6 hours ahead of us. So do the math. It's like 10:30. So that's got to be whatever. I'm a word guy, not a math guy. It's really really great. So let me kind of uh, wrap this up. So thanks for joining us. This has been season 4, episode 4 of Ouroboros Story Hour: True Tales of Healing in Altered States. Our mission is to promote depersonal and societal healing and radical acceptance by sharing and witnessing people's medicine journeys. Ouroboros Story Hour is a labor of love, but we need your financial support to help sustain the project. We have chosen not to sell tickets during the pandemic because of the financial disruptions, but if you can afford it, please send the $10 ticket fee to my Venmo at Bob J. Cohen or to my PayPal at bobjcohen at gmail.com. I'm your host and producer, Bob Cohen. Thank you very much to Haya, to James, Isa, and Stephanie. You guys, you guys really brought it tonight. I'm this was just great.